In this lecture, we will cover all our cyborg materials. Let's quickly review the types of bodies we learned about in the last module. First, we learned that in the Middle Ages, human bodies were intrinsically connected to the heavens and to hell, to the natural world and to the supernatural world. We referred to this perception of bodies as monstrous body. Then we looked at the way in which the body as organism began to take shape in European thought from Descartes in the 16th century forward. The body as organism is a body that is separate from the world around it. It comes into the world already made, and its boundaries are seen as unbreachable. Furthermore, this body is made up of a mind and a body, with the mind taking precedence. The body as organism is based on a series of dualisms, with the white, heterosexual, male body perceived to be the ideal human body and most separate from nature and the past. We have largely inherited the body as organism model, but advances in science and technology since the late 20th century have both exposed the lie of the human body as separate from the world, as well as literally began to integrate inanimate matter into the human body. You can think of this latest understanding of the body as assemblage. We briefly introduced the concept of assemblage in our last module. Assemblages are composed of heterogeneous elements or objects that enter into relations with one another. These objects are not all of the same type. Thus, you have physical objects, happenings, events, and so on, but you also have signs, utterances, etc. In other words, an assemblage does not have to include human material, but when it does, it is an understanding of the human body as a part of a collection of heterogeneous elements that enter into relation with one another in such a way that every part of the collection is changed at an affective level. I know this sounds quite abstract, but we will keep coming back until it is more clear. According to the article, Humans Moving Toward a Cyborg Horizon, the very first cyborgs were present since antiquity. They were called automatons, machines that imitated the figure and movements of animated beings. You may remember the automaton from the 2018 film Hugo. Of course, our dear friend Frankenstein's monster makes his way onto this list of early cyborgs, and the term robot comes into the discourse for the first time in 1920 to refer to creatures artificially created to work as slaves. The plotline of the Czech play Robots Universalis Rosem from 1920 is that these android-like creatures ultimately rebel and destroy humanity. This has been a very common theme in literature, film, and art, exposing our primal fears about the technology we create and the always porous and always disintegrating boundary between human and machine. Machines proliferated in the second half of the 20th century, and the more common they became, the more mysterious they became. As the author writes, there was an increasing awareness that machines may have a soul of their own and be in control over their own destinies.
Dreams mean everything. They're the stories we tell ourselves. Of what could be, who we could become. Hello, Dolores. Do you know where you are?
I'm in a dream.
Tell me, do you know what this dream means? I wonder. Have you been dreaming again, Dolores?
Since we have a lot more to cover, I won't take up too much time going through all the great examples of advancing technology in the 1990s and early 2000s, because the article takes you through those. What I want to highlight from this article is the concept of transhumanism. Transhumanism explores the possibility of transforming the human condition through technological development, overcoming our physical and intellectual limitations, to the point of giving rise to beings with extended abilities called post-human. Okay, whoa. The author moves there really quickly. Let's take a step back. First, to add to our list of definitions, cyborg. A person whose physical abilities are extended beyond normal human limitations by mechanical elements built into the body. We are going to discuss Donna Haraway's essay, Cyborg Manifesto, in a minute. But first, let's look at the case of Neil Harbison, the first human being officially recognized as a cyborg, after implanting an antenna in his head that allows him to hear colors as an alternative to the achromatopsia that he suffers. Finally, the author ends with the concept of mind uploading, a kind of cyborg mind without a body. This concept attempts to convert the human mind into information and then download it into a computer. What are your immediate reactions to this? Monsters have always defined the limits of community in Western imagination, writes Donna Haraway. Cyborg monsters in feminist science fiction define quite different political possibilities and limits from those proposed by the mundane fiction of man and woman. Donna Haraway is one of the foremost feminist cultural scholars. She was one of the first scholars to think about what it means for technology to intersect or assemble with the human body. In her first major essay on the subject, all the way back in the 1980s, Cyborg Manifesto, Haraway argues that the increasing technologicalization of the human body exposes the constructed and artificial nature of the body as organism. In other words, it shows the extent to which the human body, as separate from its environment, was always alive. And because it breaks up all of the dualisms upon which the body as organism is based, human, non-human, male, female, black, white, it also disrupts the heteronormative family, the emphasis on reproduction, and the obsession with reproducing the social body into future generations. What do we want to make the future into, and how can cyborg feminism help us get there? These are the questions that Dania Glabau considers in her lecture on cyborg feminism and the future of technology. Glabau begins her lecture with a number of examples and concepts that we just looked at: Neil Harbison, transhumanism, and Donna Haraway with her dog. As we saw, Haraway is interested in the transformation of historical reality and political reality through the figure of the cyborg. As Glabau reminds us, for Haraway, cyborgs are fabricated hybrids of machine and organism, human life and animal life. The cyborg is an assemblage, in other words. Haraway picks up on the cyborg as a figure because it skips the step of original unity that is so central to the body as organism. The cyborg rejects all the dualisms upon which the modern Western historical reality is based, or the social body is based, as we have seen, which are also all logics of domination. So how does cyborg feminism help us rethink the present and the future? First of all, it reminds us that we need to rewrite our origin myths. One, by letting go of the myth of original unity, so the Adam and Eve pre-fall mythology. We need to let go of the myth of the one future that will come and save us all. And we need to let go of the myth of the Father, the myth that we have absolute meaning that we are being directed toward. So what Haraway and Glabau after her are asking us to do is to deconstruct our origin myths upon which all of the dualisms we have covered are based, because all of those are locked in logics of domination. How can the cyborg help us think of a future that is not locked in a logic of domination and not based on dualism?